every moment, every breath, we thank Allah. The blessings of Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen, amma ba'd fa'a'awuzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayki ya Rasulallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayki ya Nabiyallah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, there are many blessings of reciting Durood Pak upon the essence and soul of our lives, the comfort and coolness of our eyes, the one in whom hope of salvation lies, the one who journeyed through the seven skies, whose face is more beautiful than the sunrise, the owner and distributor of paradise, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Indeed, in a beautiful hadith mubarakah, a companion of Aka sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Hazrat Sayyidina Ubay ibn Ka'b radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, came to the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and inquired, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I make lots of dua and I have lots of wazaif, but I allocate some of my time to reciting Durood Pak upon you. How much time should I allocate to that? And Aka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, as much as you like. He then asked, a quarter? The best of creation, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said, as much as you like, and if you increase it, it will be better for you. He then said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if I then devote half of my time, and the scholars write that what is meant by this is that after his farz, he devotes half of his time to reciting Durood Pak upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, as much as you like, and if you increase it, it is better for you. He then said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if I spent all of my time reciting Durood Pak upon you, upon this the compassionate and beloved Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, if you do that, then Allah Azza wa Jal will fulfill all your needs and forgive your sins. Subhanallah. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, we were talking about dua, and dua being the essence of worship, our relationship with our Creator. And in the month of Ramadan, especially at the time of Iftar, we discussed last time how this was such an important and crucial time that should not be wasted. The moments before Iftar were diamonds in terms of time, and they needed to be harvested and kept. And the best way of spending this precious time was to pray in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, supplicate in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, ask in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, as He is the fulfiller of needs. And by asking Him and turning to Allah Azza wa Jal humbly and sincerely, we would better this world and the hereafter. Subhanallah. When one turns to Allah Azza wa Jal and recognizes that He is the Creator Supreme, when one recognizes that He is the one who fulfills needs, when one recognizes that all my calamities will disappear if I pray in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, when he realizes that my tests I will be successful in when I turn to Allah Azza wa Jal, when he realizes that all the gifts I have in this world are from Allah Azza wa Jal, and to increase them, if I thank Allah Azza wa Jal and make supplications in His court, I will be successful. Then you grasp the true essence of this great gift of dua. In dua, you are recognizing that nobody else can help you. You are accepting that your fate lies in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal. You are accepting your weakness, your humbleness, your nothingness. You are accepting that nobody else in the world can help you. And you turn to the most powerful weapon that you have, prayer in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, This dua is truly amazing. This supplication in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal is truly a tool for success in this life. But there are certain principles, adab, and certain things we need to observe to make us successful in our prayers. And the scholars write that it is important that we learn the etiquettes of dua, and we learn why du'as are not accepted and how Allah Azza wa Jal is pleased and they are accepted. Arrogance is something which detracts from the essence of dua. When a person is arrogant, the scholars write that he is self-reliant. He thinks he is something special. He thinks he has a skill or the power to do something. What he fails to appreciate is that this skill, this power has come from Allah Azza wa Jal. This skill and this power can disappear in a moment. We have our big houses, our fancy cars, our nice jobs, and yet we tend to get arrogant that, look at me, I have got everything and I've got good health. But in one moment, lives get turned upside down. The arteries of the heart are minute, and a little bit of change in their diameter changes your life, and you could spend the rest of your life sat in a wheelchair. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, when one stands to pray in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, or when one makes supplications in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, what does the Quran teach us? That you thank me, I will give you more. In essence, if we stand with arrogance in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, or we stand hoping for the fact that our own skills will carry us through, our money will be our savior, then we will not gain the benefits of this dua. What we need to do is stand in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal humbly, ashamed of our actions, recognizing our sins, and recognizing that we are humble servants in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. We are powerless. It is the Creator who gives us everything. It is Allah Azza wa Jal who has given me every gift that I have, and it is Allah Azza wa Jal who can take those away. It is Allah Azza wa Jal who will fulfill all my needs. It is the Creator Supreme who will make sure that I die in the state of Iman, which is the greatest of achievements. It is the Creator Supreme who will make sure that my grave is not a pit of hell, but rather a garden of paradise. It is this dua in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal which can brighten your future in the grave and on the day of judgment. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, one of the things that the scholars write is opposite or stops du'as, or is a barrier between the acceptance of the dua in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, is disobedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. And it makes sense as well. If a person is continually committing sins, if he is disobedient in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, then the scholars write that du'as are not accepted of that person. If a person does not pray his salah, then his du'as are not accepted. If he doesn't protect his farz namaz, he can supplicate in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal as much as he likes, but if he cannot fulfill the obligations that have been imposed upon him, then his du'as will not be accepted. Indeed, the scholars go further in light of the Hadith Mubarakah and the ayats of the Quran, and they say that no good deed is accepted from the one who does not read his farz salah. He will not be rewarded for it. So disobedience in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal is one of the most significant barriers in the way of acceptance of dua. So whenever we do an action, we should check, especially in the month of Ramadan and outside, because the month of Ramadan was here to train us, that we are not doing anything that displeases Allah and His beloved Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Indeed, there are many narrations. There was a man in Bani Israel, and he was amongst the people, and the Prophet of the time, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, prayed in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal for it to rain, because it hadn't rained for ages and there was a bad drought. And what happened? Allah Azza wa Jal said, Musa, there is a sinner amongst them who has the habit of tale telling. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam requested in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah, reveal him to me. Allah Azza wa Jal said, no Musa, I cannot reveal him to you, for I am rebuking him for that very act of tale-telling. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam turned to Bani Israel and he said, there is somebody amongst us who is a sinner, and this is the sin he commits. That person needs to go away, so that the rest of us can pray in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Our prayers will be accepted and Allah Azza wa Jal will send rain upon us. That person, upon realizing that it was his doings which were stopping the people benefiting from the du'as of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam and the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal with the rain, he immediately repented in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. And as soon as he sincerely repented in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, it started to rain. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, the blessings and the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal are there. Without doubt, in the month of Ramadan, they are being showered upon Muslims. How bad would it be if we were left without the mercy and the blessings of Ramadan al-Mubarak because we continue to commit sins, we continue to lie, we continue to backbite, we continue to tell tales, we continue to be disobedient to our parents, we speak to our parents in a way that upsets them. What if we continue to look at the wrong things, we continue to watch dramas and films to time pass, we continue to be nasty to all those around us? Then we sit down at the time of Iftar and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal, if our du'as are not accepted, then tell me, whose fault is it? This month of Ramadan was here to cleanse us thoroughly from inside and out. It was here to teach us obedience in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. It was here to teach us obedience in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was here to teach us humbleness before our parents. It was here to teach us mercy for our youngsters. It was here to teach us brotherhood with those around us and beautiful characters to those around us, dealing with those around us in a beautiful manner. And yet, even in the month of Ramadan, if we disobey Allah Azza wa Jal and then expect our du'as to be accepted in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, then we are really fooling ourselves. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, there are many other barriers in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal when you make du'a. Sometimes when we make this du'a, we don't recognize the fact that we are dependent upon Allah Azza wa Jal. Now this is a very, very important concept, because sometimes we think we are self-sufficient and we simply pray for the sake of it like a ritual. But the scholars write that one of the fundamentals to acceptance of dua is dependency and trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. He is the ruler, He is the king, He is the creator, He is the most powerful, He is the most compassionate, He is the most merciful, He is the fulfiller of needs. Now you have to recognize that in your heart, and that once you recognize that in your heart, it will bring in humbleness. You will think, I am one of billions of people who walk on this earth at this present time. I am one of billions and billions of people who have walked upon this earth since the time began. Who am I? I am nothing, but my Lord is the most powerful. And once you recognize that, and recognize that you are wholly dependent on the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, the scholars write that you have reached the first stage to make a humble and sincere dua in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Rely upon His absolute mercy, His generosity, and know that you're asking in the court of your Creator, and then raise your hands. And doing it with this sincerity, you will know that your du'as are being fulfilled. Then, there are some du'as, the scholars write, which may be harmful to us, yet we still seek them. We try to seek them and try to ask for them time and time again. And if we don't get them, then we become upset. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jal knows no bounds. He knows what His servant needs and when he needs it. Sometimes something may be good for you, but it may not be good for you at that time. It will come at its appropriate time when the Creator of the heavens and the earth decides it is right for you. Then Allah Azza wa Jal may, in His infinite wisdom, decide that the fulfillment of that dua in this world is not better for you, but keeping it as a treasure for you on the Day of Judgment is even better for you. So the scholars write that don't be disheartened when your dua isn't immediately accepted. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, we need to recognize this beautiful weapon and tool in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we need to make sure that we don't waste these precious opportunities during the month of Ramadan. We need to make sure that we maximize the benefit by learning how to do dua, taking the time out before the time of Iftari, coming into the court of Allah Azza wa Jal humbly and sincerely, reciting the Quran, doing the zikr, reciting Durood Pak, giving sadaqah, and then at the time of Iftar, standing in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal with your hands raised and your list of needs. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, there are many etiquettes of dua which help to increase it. It is very difficult to give you an exhaustive list. Some of the main ones we've mentioned. But the scholars write that do not exceed the limits of dua. Do not ask for things that are impossible. Do not ask for haram things. Do not ask for forbidden things. Don't curse other people. Don't make dua for breaking of family ties. Don't belittle others. Don't ask for insignificant things. Ask for the best. Ask for Jannatul Firdaus, is what Aka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us. And make dua for patience and servitude in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Don't, because of your problems, ask for death. No, be strong and steadfast. And know that this month of Ramadan al-Mubarak is so precious that in a beautiful hadith al-Mubarakah, Aka sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said this. And this is why you should really cherish the month of Ramadan. The best of creation sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, he was informed of a dream of somebody who had passed away. Two brothers. One was a martyr in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. A year later, the second brother also passed away. Sayyidina Talha radiallahu ta'ala anhu dreamt of the second brother, the one who passed away a year after, walking ahead of the brother who had been martyred. He came to the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam and asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I saw this dream, and one of the brothers had been martyred in battle. The second had died a year later. He didn't have the honor and privilege of dying in battle in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. And yet, the brother who died after was walking ahead of the one who had died before and who had died as a martyr. The best of creation sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, did the brother who died later not observe the full month of fasting in Ramadan, and did he not perform salah for a full year? One should not be surprised on him walking ahead, because his ibadah was more than that of his shaheed brother. Subhanallah. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, this month of Ramadan is truly a treasure. It's a treasure that you can save. In this world, you need to appreciate that it is a treasure that you need to take with both hands and save. And its true value will come to be known when you reach the grave and reach the hereafter. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, the dua of a mu'min, if made sincerely and with humbleness in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, reaches the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. If it is done properly, then it reaches high places. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, dua is the essence of worship. And there are different etiquettes that we have for dua. Different people's du'as are accepted, and the scholars write that a person who is in distress, his dua is accepted. The one who's oppressed, his dua is accepted. But one of the factors that everybody agrees on, one person whose dua is surely accepted is the dua of the fasting person at the time of iftar. Now, if that dua is made with the proper etiquette and then presenting in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, the wasila of His beloved people, that dua surely reaches a high status. Now the scholars write that there are different things that one can present in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. He can present good deeds. So there were people who presented their good deeds in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal when they prayed, and as a result of their good deeds they received reward. Indeed, Hazrat Abdullah bin Umayr radiallahu ta'ala said that the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, in the previous era, 3 men were travelling somewhere. It suddenly began to rain. They took refuge and entered a cave to spend the night. When they entered the cave, a rock slid down and closed the mouth of the cave. They were in trouble, they could not get out. And they started to make dua with the wasila of good deeds in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. One of them said, Ya Allah, my parents were old, but I did not give my children and servants milk before serving my parents first. One day I ended up very far away in search of wood. When I returned, I found that my parents had fallen asleep. I brought some milk for them, but felt that it was inappropriate to wake them up. I did not want to give the milk to my family, and so I waited the whole night for my parents to wake up, and when they did, I offered them the milk. Ya Allah, if I performed a good deed for your pleasure, then bring us salvation from this trouble. By virtue of this dua, the rock moved slightly, but not enough for them to get out. The second person said, Ya Allah, I loved my uncle's daughter very much. I expressed my evil desires to her, but she refused. One day she came to me for help, being a victim of poverty. I gave her 100 dinars on the condition that she satisfied my evil desires. She had no choice and agreed. When we were alone, I overpowered her. She said, fear Allah Azza wa Jal and do not commit sin. Upon hearing this, I stopped. I deeply felt regret. I gave her the money, but solely for your pleasure, Ya Allah Azza wa Jal. I did not commit any wrong deed. When he said this, listening to this, the rock moved slightly. Subhanallah. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, they presented one by one their deeds in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. They were given salvation from the trouble. The third man employed some men, he said, for labor. All of them except one took his wages. He invested his wage into a business and made a lot of profit. Sometime later the man came back to demand his wage. And I responded, these camels, these cows, these goats and these servants are all yours. He said, are you joking? I replied, no, I invested your money and I gave it back to him purely and solely for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. When that dua was made, the rock moved, and it moved enough for them to exit the grave. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, good deeds presented as a wasila in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal help in the fulfillment of the du'as. The fundamental criteria is that the deed is done for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. And do we know of a deed that we have in our book of deeds which is solely for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal and nobody knows about it? Because today we have this, the shaitan brings a waswasa that we have to tell everybody. So if I am fasting, I have to tell a few people. If I've done a good deed, I need to tell. Is there a deed that only me and my Creator know? We should try and build that little portfolio of deeds, which we can proudly say, only I know, only Allah Azza wa Jal knows, and maybe these deeds will be the basis of my salvation in the grave and in the hereafter. My dear Islamic brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, dua is the essence of worship. And if done correctly, it can lead to the blessings in this world and in the hereafter. There are many, many parables of people whose lives have changed by dua. Even outside Ramadan Mubarak, you can reap the rewards by sincerely presenting yourself and supplicating in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. But in this blessed month of Ramadan al-Mubarak, where every moment is a blessing and a treasure, you can truly reap the rewards. Do not miss out on this opportunity, especially at the time of Iftar. Try and make sure that you sit down comfortably and clear your mind and present in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal your prayers. And the etiquettes of that is to first sing the praises of Allah Azza wa Jal, recite the Quran, do the zikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, send through the Pak upon the best of creation sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, present in the courts of Allah Azza wa Jal the wasila of the pious saints of Allah Azza wa Jal, and present in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal your deeds which may not be very much, but even the very little you've done with the right intention, present them in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, and then sincerely ask for forgiveness. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us the tawfiq to maximize our du'as in this blessed month of Ramadan al-Mubarak. Ameen bijahin Nabil Ameen sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Every moment, every breath, we thank Allah. The blessings of Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan, the blessings of Ramadan.